Hi, I'm Tom, and this is AC On, the short Alpha Clash podcast, where I talk all things Alpha Clash on my way to work. Now, if you haven't heard, last weekend brought the first really big event for the Alpha Clash, the first, I dare to say, international competition. There were two events. One in Manila and one in the US in Las Vegas, and we sort of got a picture of where Alpha Clash is at there. So let's talk about that. So both of these events were held with two competitions or two sub-events. There was a competition in a tournament in Constructed, which was what they were named for. The Clashgrounds is the top level competitive scene. So they held a Clashground with constructed decks, and then they had a pre-release of the new set Unrivaled that releases this May, in the end of May. I think my order set the 31st of May, so I'm really looking forward to that. But here they got to play with it a bit early. Not that envious at all. For the main event, so to speak, the constructed format, there was a precursor some time back, I think 3 or 4 weeks, where they in the Philippines had a tournament, at least. I don't know at what level, but apparently that was the big thing. So it might have been a well-organized thing, I guess. And they indicated that the winner of that would be Talk, both there and now. I talked about it last time. I'm not particularly fan of having a very singular setup for who is winning, and they did that in Manila. I'm not blaming anyone for that. I'm just saying, of the top 8 were Talks this time, and of course Talk won in Manila. In the US there was a bit more variety in the field, where 2 Clarity decks made it to top 8 along with a Mean Streak deck, and then the rest were Talk, so 5 Talk decks. So not much in the in the way of variety for the deck constructors. If you want to win tournaments with Constructed right now, it's Talk. Red Agro is the way to go. That being said, they also held a pre-release, and usually you cannot compare what you find in the pre-release in the sealed environment with what you have in the constructed environment. For those entrenched players, that is an obvious reason. That there are obvious reasons for this. Just highlighting that you don't choose your cards as freely, and you can't brew and test your mechanics or your deck build. So of course that will not be it won't be the same refinement as a constructed deck, and you're not having the same freedom, hence the name limited or sealed. But this is still a very new game, so I think we can lend a little bit of credence to what happens in the constructed play. What happens in the pre-release, in the limited play, as to what is to come in the constructed setup. Now, in the pre-release setup, the winners were, the top 8 were a little bit more diverse. Not in Vegas. So in Las Vegas, they were playing Magnate, and Magnate, all of them, except for a single player who took it to the final with Lynn. Great job. Now, I don't know how everyone ended up on Magnate, but they did. And but a single player chose Lynn and made it to the final, not winning, unfortunately. So Magnate in Las Vegas. In Manila, the field was a bit more diverse. There was a 1-1 making it to the top 8 with a Chaoling. There was one that made it with a Krung. There was a Flare, and then the 5 rest were Magnates. So obviously, the Magnate side of things is quite dominant in the set of Unrivaled. However, even though that Flare only got a single player playing it, she won in Las Vegas. She made it all the way through and won the final round. So we now have 2 different contenders winning the pre-releases on the highest level. I think that's great. I'm especially happy that they were 2, and they were there was this diversity to it. I mean, it bodes well for the future that we have a bit of diversity in the contender field. However, they are all 3. What I would not having seen the decks and gone through or seen the play, I am assuming that they are going for a sort of an agro style. Now, agro in sealed makes perfect sense. It's very hard to build a control mid-range or even late game deck in a sealed environment. However, the main contenders here, no pun intended, were the aggro decks. Now, going forward, when these contenders hit the constructive format by the end of the month, where you can actually start building things, it's going to be interesting to see what impact they will have. And I think we might have, especially in Magnate, we might have a challenger for Torque for the top field. But I want to look at some more cards before I'm certain about that. He has a lot of support already. Now, what's interesting, of course, that Flare made it to the very end. Flare being, as far as I remember, a red contender. So there might be a synergy with some of the Torque cards. So what it looks like to me, at least, is that the future of Alpha Clash, or at least the next set, and maybe the next set after that, is going to be very heavy on the aggro decks. Now, usually I will think that is a great problem. In this case, I don't. For 2 reasons. One is that we are still early days. Meaning that we have a very limited card pool, and making good control decks, making a variety of strategies doable, you have to have a very careful development. This is we tend to think of it as a big corporation that is, or at least a company that produces things and plays this a lot. I think they are doing a tremendous job at it, but it takes a lot more testing, I think, to make a viable control setup. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't happen. It just needs more cards, more variety in the card pool to be able to do that. The other reason I don't find that this is a problem is sort of the same. It's sort of the same ballpark. It's a very new game. We are still not a million players or millions and millions of players. We are still introducing these games to people. and agro decks are just easier to grok. So, having great support for someone who wants to play aggro is still a good solution in my mind. 2 or 3 years down the line, it won't be. I'm not gonna say just putting the aggros or for aggro strategies, but right as of right now, whenever I am teaching someone new to play Alpha Clash, they get the aggro deck unless they already know how to play. Or have a solid knowledge of how to play other TCGs, they get the aggro deck, because the aggro deck is easier to understand and to work with for new players. That doesn't mean that will satisfy me forever. I'm sort of a mid-range player. I like to build something up, so I'm not satisfied by playing aggro on aggro, but it is a good solution and good starting point for games. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it being primarily aggro that is the style, but I really, really hope we will get something else than talk at the tournaments. Otherwise, this would be stale, and that would be sad, because this is a good game. So let's hope that Magnate or Flair or Lynn even can make a good show once they get up to speed and into the constructed decks. And I might have a few other ideas on what could be the future of the constructed play. But let's see what comes in Unrivaled. We only got a month to go, so that'd be interesting. Oh, and a final note, spoiler season ends today or tomorrow, I can't remember, when the last spoiler card is revealed, and then we can start talking about, hopefully more cards will be revealed to us soon after that, so we can start speculating a bit on what we're going to put on our wish list when we start cracking packs at the end of the month. Anyway, that was it for me now. I'm almost at work. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.